The story opens on a wide, dusty ranch under the harsh yet beautiful light of an early morning sun. The rancher, a solitary man in his late 30s named Caleb, is introduced first through his actions and surroundings. His ranch is vast, but quiet, a patchwork of grazing land, fences in need of repair, and a barn that has clearly seen better days. Caleb has spent years living alone after the passing of his wife, relying on his own hard work and the rhythm of the land to fill his days. Though capable and strong, there is an unmistakable loneliness about him, a man shaped as much by isolation as by the soil under his boots. Caleb's days have become monotonous, the vastness of his ranch offering little more than physical labor and solitude. The barn, in particular, has become a source of both pride and frustration. Inside, dust and hay cover every surface. Old tools lean against the walls, and the wooden beams creak under their own age. Despite the barn's disarray, Caleb never considered asking for help. He is a man used to relying on himself. However, recent events, perhaps the added burden of chores as seasons change, or a sense that he cannot maintain everything alone, push him to reconsider. He places an advertisement in the local town, someone to help clean and organize the barn. Nothing more, nothing less. The woman who answers the call arrives at the ranch the following morning. She is introduced indirectly at first, her hands are rough from labor, her clothes plain but clean, and her demeanor careful, polite, and cautious. Caleb immediately notices a quiet strength about her, an air of independence that matches the rugged environment of his ranch. Though she is soft-spoken, there is a resilience in the way she moves through the space, methodically sweeping and arranging the barn, showing both efficiency and care. She carries herself as someone accustomed to responsibility, someone who has faced challenges far beyond the ordinary. Caleb, focused on assessing her skills for the task at hand, doesn't yet know the full extent of her life. Their initial interaction is formal and professional. Caleb gives instructions, expecting compliance without conversation, while she listens intently, occasionally offering small, practical suggestions about how to move a stubborn stack of hay or organize the tools. There is a subtle tension in these early moments, a man unused to having help and a woman cautious about revealing too much. The barn itself becomes a silent witness to this first meeting, a space that holds both the mundane task of cleaning and the potential for deeper discovery. As the day progresses, Caleb observes her work ethic and attention to detail. There is a rhythm to her movements, a way she balances efficiency with care, and it doesn't take long for him to sense that she is more than just a temporary worker. There are small details, a fleeting glance of fatigue, the way she pauses mid-task as if thinking of something else, that hint at a life beyond the barn. Caleb's curiosity begins to stir, though he keeps it buried under his habitual reserve. By the end of the first day, the barn is noticeably cleaner, more organized. Yet the biggest change is the subtle shift in the atmosphere. What started as a simple transaction employer and hired help has planted the seeds of intrigue and curiosity. Caleb senses that there is a story behind this woman, one that he cannot yet see, and he is simultaneously drawn to uncover it and hesitant to intrude. For the first time in years, the barn feels alive, not just with dust and hay, but with the quiet presence of another person whose life intersects with his in ways he cannot yet imagine. This first part establishes the characters, the setting, and the tone of the story. A quiet, grounded world where ordinary tasks hint at extraordinary human lives and relationships. It sets up the tension and curiosity that will drive the narrative forward, inviting the reader to wonder who this woman is and what secrets her quiet strength may conceal. The morning after the woman's first day in the barn, Caleb returns to check on her progress. The ranch stretches endlessly under the soft glow of sunrise, the sky painted in muted oranges and pinks, while the wind rustles through the dry grass, carrying the scent of earth and livestock. Caleb's footsteps crunch on the dirt path leading to the barn, a rhythm that has always been a comfort in his solitary life. Yet today, there is a sense of anticipation, a subtle curiosity about the woman he hired. He wonders what motivates someone to take on a task as mundane and exhausting as cleaning his barn, and whether her quiet competence hides a story deeper than he can guess. As he pushes open the barn door, he is struck by the transformation. The space that once felt chaotic and lifeless now carries an air of order, though not sterile or mechanical. Hay bales are stacked neatly, tools are arranged along the walls, and the sunlight streaming through the cracks highlights the clean sweep of the floor. The woman is there, bent over her work, her movements precise yet unhurried. There is a dignity in the way she sweeps, a rhythm that speaks to someone who has learned to work hard without complaint. Her presence fills the barn in a way that is quietly commanding. She does not speak, but her focus and dedication speak volumes. Caleb observes her from the doorway, taking in the details. Her hair, loosely tied back, is streaked with strands of gray dust from the barn. Yet her face carries an enduring softness, the kind that hints at both resilience and tenderness. Her eyes, focused on the floor, occasionally glance up, revealing sharp awareness and intelligence. There is a subtle weight in her posture, a hint of tiredness, yet also an unmistakable strength. Caleb realizes that this is a woman accustomed to handling responsibility, someone who has faced challenges and emerged capable, self-reliant, and quietly proud. He steps inside, making a deliberate, careful approach, unsure of how much to intrude. "You've done good work," he says, his voice rough from disuse, yet sincere. She glances up, meeting his eyes briefly, offering a polite nod and a small smile, her first acknowledgement beyond mere duty. The interaction is brief, almost formal, yet in that exchange lies a subtle tension. Caleb senses layers beneath her quiet demeanor, hints of struggle, perhaps even secrets she has kept carefully hidden. She returns to her task, but the moment lingers, leaving Caleb both intrigued and cautious. As he watches her work, he begins to notice small details that tell stories of their own. The way her hands move with practiced skill, the careful attention to corners and edges, the pauses that seem to signal thoughtfulness rather than fatigue all hint at a life that requires constant care and vigilance. Caleb finds himself respecting her more than he expected, a quiet admiration growing alongside a stirring curiosity. He realizes that this woman is far from ordinary. She carries with her a quiet strength that commands attention without seeking it. By the end of the day, the barn is fully transformed, but the more significant change is in Caleb's perception. What he initially saw as a simple labor arrangement has become an encounter with someone far more complex and intriguing than he anticipated. She is no longer just a hired hand. She is a person whose life, struggles, and resilience are subtly revealed through her actions. The barn, once a symbol of isolation and routine, has become a place where new possibilities emerge, a space where two very different lives begin to intersect, and where curiosity, respect, and perhaps something deeper start to take root. Part 2 establishes the emotional connection and sets the stage for the eventual revelation of her life as a single mother. Through small, observational details and subtle interactions, the story builds tension, empathy, and anticipation, inviting the reader to invest in both characters and the relationship that is quietly forming. The following afternoon, Caleb decides to check on the progress in the barn. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting long, warm shadows across the ranch. The air is filled with the faint scent of hay, earth, and the distant smoke from a neighboring homestead. Normally, the barn is just a place of work, a silent, dusty structure that echoes with his footsteps. But today, Caleb senses something different, an undercurrent of life and activity he hadn't expected. A soft shuffle and muffled giggles catch his attention, and his curiosity nudges him forward. As he pushes the barn door open, the scene before him stops him in his tracks. At first, he assumes he is imagining things four small children, ranging in age from perhaps 3 to 10, sit quietly in a corner of the barn. They are busy with small, imaginative games, using scattered pieces of hay and old tools as props. Their laughter is restrained but genuine, filled with the kind of innocence only children possess. Caleb's hand tightens on the doorframe, a mix of shock and disbelief coursing through him. He had expected simple chores and a solitary worker, not this lively, unexpected tableau. The woman notices him immediately but does not panic. Instead, she rises slowly, keeping one hand gently on the nearest child as if to reassure them. There is no embarrassment, no explanation in her voice, just calm and quiet authority. Her face reflects a mixture of pride, fatigue, and quiet defiance. She has long since learned that her life and her children's well-being are her responsibility alone, and she does not flinch under the rancher's astonished gaze. Caleb, who has spent most of his life managing animals and machinery rather than people, is momentarily speechless. As his eyes adjust to the scene, he begins to notice small, telling details. The children are well cared for despite the rustic surroundings. Their clothes, though simple, are clean, and their hair is brushed. There is a sense of discipline blended with warmth in the way they interact, suggesting a mother who has instilled routine and love amidst hardship. The eldest child looks up at him with wide, curious eyes, a silent question in their gaze. The youngest clutches a small, tattered doll, yet their trust in the woman is unmistakable. Every movement, every glance, conveys the depth of the bond they share with their mother. Caleb takes a cautious step forward, unsure how to address the situation. Words fail him at first, and the barn, once merely a structure of wood and tools, now feels alive with human presence and unseen stories. The quiet strength of the woman resonates in the space, and Caleb begins to understand that she is far more than the sum of her tasks. She has managed to maintain order, safety, and love for 4 children all on her own, and this revelation stirs a mix of admiration, respect, and a protective instinct in him that he has rarely felt before. For a moment, neither speaks. The children continue their quiet play, oblivious to the disruption, while Caleb studies the woman who has so quietly commanded their world. He realizes that his assumptions about her, that she was simply a worker hired for a job, were completely off. She carries burdens he could scarcely imagine, and yet she handles them with grace and resilience. The barn, once a symbol of monotony and isolation in his life, has become a stage for discovery, empathy, and the first real glimpse into another human's struggles and triumphs. By the end of this encounter, Caleb's perspective has shifted completely. The barn is no longer just a building to be cleaned or a place for chores. It is now a window into the woman's life, her dedication, and the unspoken sacrifices she has made. The discovery of the children sets in motion a chain of curiosity, concern, and emotional engagement that will drive the next chapters of the story. Caleb knows, deep down, that this moment marks the beginning of something far more meaningful than any barn cleaning job, a turning point where 2 lives start to intertwine in unexpected ways. After the initial shock of discovering the children in the barn, Caleb stands quietly, unsure how to react. The woman, sensing his astonishment, takes a deep breath and decides to speak, not to justify herself, but to share the truth she has carried alone for years. She introduces herself fully this time, revealing the hardships that have shaped her life. Her voice is steady but soft, carrying the weight of responsibility and the quiet strength of someone who has endured far more than most people can imagine. Caleb listens, captivated, as the barn transforms from a mere workspace into a sanctuary of stories, resilience, and human connection. She explains that she has been raising her 4 children alone ever since her husband disappeared years ago. The circumstances are vague and painful, left unspoken in part to protect her pride and to shield her children from the harsh realities of the past. Each child represents a chapter of struggle and survival. The eldest, responsible beyond her years, has learned to assist in small chores. The second, playful and curious, brings light into even the darkest days. The third, sensitive and quiet, has an innate understanding of others' emotions. And the youngest, innocent and carefree, embodies hope and resilience. Through her words, Caleb begins to grasp not just her responsibilities, but the magnitude of the courage required to manage a household alone in such a rugged environment. She describes the delicate balance she maintains between work and home life. From sunrise to sunset, she juggles multiple tasks, caring for the children, finding work in town, tending to household needs, and ensuring her little ones never feel neglected or unloved. Her days are long, her nights often sleepless, but she has cultivated routines that create stability and safety for her family. Caleb notices the subtle pride in her tone, the satisfaction of someone who refuses to let adversity define her life or the lives of her children. It is evident that she has built a world of order and love amidst chaos, and her eyes shine with determination when she speaks of her children. As she shares her story, Caleb's initial surprise gradually transforms into admiration. He begins to understand that the quiet strength he sensed earlier was no accident. It was forged from years of hardship and dedication. The barn, once a space for labor and dust, becomes a stage where her resilience and resourcefulness are revealed. Caleb realizes that her story is more than personal. It is a testament to human endurance, the sacrifices made silently, and the unrecognized heroism of everyday life. He finds himself drawn not just to her story, but to her character and to the unwavering love she shows her children in every action. There is a vulnerability in the way she tells her story, but also a clear boundary. She does not seek pity, only understanding. Caleb recognizes this, and a sense of respect begins to form between them. He feels a mixture of awe and protectiveness, an emotional response he is unaccustomed to but cannot deny. This moment marks the first real connection between them, a bridge of trust that begins to span the gap between her solitary struggles and his isolated life. The barn, a symbol of manual labor and isolation in his world, now holds the intimate narrative of a woman whose strength and resilience surpass expectations. By the end of Part 4, Caleb is profoundly changed. He now sees the woman not as a worker or a temporary presence, but as a person of remarkable character, managing the extraordinary task of raising 4 children alone. Her story sets the stage for deeper interactions as trust, empathy, and emotional bonds begin to develop. The narrative has shifted from a simple labor arrangement to a complex exploration of human endurance, care, and the unexpected ways lives can intersect. Caleb's world, once quiet and solitary, has begun to expand in a way he never anticipated, hinting at the possibility of connection, support, and perhaps something more. As the days turn into weeks, the relationship between Caleb and the woman develops in quiet, meaningful ways. The barn, once a simple workspace, has become a center of shared effort and understanding, a place where small gestures carry enormous emotional weight. Caleb finds himself thinking less about chores and more about the woman and her children, how she manages to keep everything in balance, how the children respond to her guidance, and how her resilience shines through even in moments of exhaustion. The initial curiosity and admiration he felt have deepened into a sense of genuine care and connection, though neither of them is yet willing to name it. The woman, too, begins to relax around Caleb. She allows herself small moments of vulnerability, revealing snippets of her life beyond the barn. She tells him about the children's favorite games, the little victories and setbacks of raising them, and the personal dreams she once held but had to set aside for their sake. In these conversations, Caleb sees her not only as a hard-working caretaker, but as a thoughtful, intelligent woman with hopes, fears, and depth. Each story, each shared laugh or sigh, builds a bridge of trust between them, strengthening the emotional connection that has begun to take root. Their interactions are no longer limited to tasks and chores. Caleb starts anticipating needs without being asked. He fills water troughs before she mentions it, brings extra firewood when he notices the stack is low, and gently corrects small dangers the children might face. The woman notices his attentiveness and begins to appreciate it, seeing in him a reliable presence who respects her authority while quietly offering support. She begins to let him help in more personal ways, such as reading to the children or assisting with homework, small actions that signify growing trust and acceptance. The children themselves begin to warm to Caleb, laughing and playing with him in ways that indicate comfort and safety. The eldest child, once cautious and protective, begins to ask for his input on small matters. The middle children eagerly involve him in games and chores, enjoying his quiet humor. And the youngest clings to him with an innocence that melts the edges of his usual reserve. Through these interactions, Caleb begins to experience a sense of family and belonging he had long thought lost. Each day, the barn and the surrounding ranch are transformed not just physically but emotionally, becoming spaces of joy, laughter, and shared life. There are also moments of intimacy that remain unspoken yet palpable. A brief touch as he passes her a tool, a shared glance over a child's antics, or the comfortable silence while they sit together after a long day. These small gestures carry weight, signaling an emotional closeness neither of them fully acknowledges aloud. Caleb begins to notice the subtleties of her expressions, the way her eyes soften when she talks about the children, the slight tension in her shoulders when she faces challenges alone. Likewise, she begins to recognize his reliability, his quiet strength, and the way he respects her boundaries while still offering care. As their connection deepens, the ranch becomes a backdrop for transformation. What was once a place of solitary labor has evolved into a setting where trust, empathy, and subtle affection flourish. Caleb experiences a sense of fulfillment beyond the physical work of the ranch, feeling emotionally invested in the woman's life and the well-being of her children. The woman, in turn, begins to see Caleb as someone who could be more than a temporary helper, a potential partner in the delicate balance of her life. By the end of Part 6, the foundation for a true partnership has been laid. Trust has blossomed into respect, and respect has begun to bloom into deeper emotional connection. Both Caleb and the woman recognize, whether consciously or not, that their lives are becoming intertwined in meaningful ways. The stage is set for challenges, crises, and further intimacy that will test the strength of this bond, preparing both characters for the trials and triumphs ahead. The calm rhythm of ranch life is suddenly disrupted one late afternoon when dark clouds gather on the horizon, signaling an approaching storm. The wind picks up, whipping dust and debris across the open land, and the first rumble of distant thunder shakes the quiet of the ranch. Caleb, alert to the weather, notices the children playing near the barn and realizes that what had seemed like a typical day is quickly turning dangerous. The barn, their haven and workspace, could no longer guarantee safety from the sudden fierce storm. In this moment, the quiet bond that has been forming between him and the woman is put to the ultimate test. As the first heavy drops of rain begin to fall, chaos threatens to overtake the children. The youngest clutches a small toy and begins to cry, startled by the wind, while the eldest rushes to gather the others. The woman moves with urgency, her calm authority tempered by genuine worry. Caleb, seeing the intensity of the situation, springs into action without hesitation. He rushes forward, scooping up the youngest child and shielding the others with his body as he moves them toward the safety of the barn. Every movement reflects not just instinct but a protective determination he has never felt so strongly before. Inside the barn, the storm rages, shaking the wooden walls and sending the smell of wet hay and earth swirling through the space. Caleb and the woman work in unison, securing windows, adjusting hay bales, and calming the frightened children. There is no hesitation, no awkwardness, just a seamless partnership forged through weeks of mutual respect and slowly earned trust. The woman, initially wary of allowing anyone into her world, now relies fully on Caleb, recognizing that he is capable, dependable, and committed to their well-being. In turn, Caleb sees the strength and resilience she has maintained for years, and his admiration deepens into a protective, almost familial care. Amid the storm, small moments of humanity shine through. The eldest child reaches up to hold Caleb's hand, seeking reassurance, while the middle children huddle together under the warmth of the woman's coat. Caleb offers quiet words of comfort, his deep voice steady and grounding. There is an unspoken understanding between the adults that they are not only protecting the children physically, but emotionally, ensuring that fear does not overshadow trust and security. The crisis transforms the barn from a site of labor into a refuge, a place where the bonds of family, both biological and chosen, are strengthened. When the storm finally begins to pass, a fragile peace returns. The wind dies down, the rain softens, and shafts of sunlight pierce through the clouds, illuminating the barn with a soft golden glow. Caleb and the woman, exhausted yet relieved, look at one another with newfound respect and understanding. The shared experience has revealed something deeper. They are not just co-workers or neighbors. They are partners in safeguarding the lives and happiness of these children. The crisis has crystallized the trust and emotional connection that has been building over weeks into a tangible, unbreakable bond. By the end of Part 7, both Caleb and the woman recognize that their lives are irrevocably intertwined. The storm serves as a metaphor for the challenges they will inevitably face together, and their ability to navigate it successfully foreshadows a relationship that can withstand future trials. The children, safe and comforted, are witnesses to a new kind of family forming, one not defined by conventional structures, but by care, commitment, and mutual respect. The barn, once a place of chores, has now become a symbol of protection, resilience, and the strength of human connection forged in adversity. The morning after the storm dawns bright and clear, with sunlight spilling across the ranch in warm, golden streams. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of wet earth and hay, and for the first time in a long while, the barn and surrounding land feel alive with renewed possibility. Caleb steps outside, taking in the scene, the children playing cautiously in the soft morning light, their laughter fragile but joyful, and the woman moving among them with ease and gentle authority. The storm, which had threatened to upend their world, has instead strengthened the bonds between them, leaving a sense of calm and renewed hope in its wake. In the aftermath of the crisis, Caleb and the woman find themselves sitting together on a hay bale near the barn, a quiet space where conversation flows naturally. There is no need for formalities or careful restraint. Weeks of shared labor, trust building, and the storm's test of their abilities have created a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. She shares anecdotes about each child's little quirks and dreams, and Caleb listens, genuinely interested, laughing softly at their antics and marveling at her tireless devotion. The conversation is punctuated with comfortable silences, moments where no words are needed to convey the growing connection between them. Over the next days, a rhythm emerges that blends the lives of the rancher, the woman, and her children. Caleb assumes a role not merely as a helper, but as a steady presence in their daily lives. He assists with chores, helps organize meals, and even plays games with the children, earning their trust and affection. The woman, in turn, begins to rely on him not only for practical support, but for emotional reassurance. Their interactions grow warmer, marked by subtle gestures, shared smiles, gentle touches on the shoulder, and quiet moments of understanding that hint at a deeper bond forming. The barn, once a symbol of solitary labor, is now a place of laughter, learning, and shared responsibility. The children, for their part, respond with the unguarded joy and curiosity unique to youth. They begin to treat Caleb as a figure of safety and companionship, seeking his guidance and including him in their imaginative play. The eldest child, previously cautious, now engages openly, sometimes offering advice or helping him with small tasks. The younger ones display uninhibited joy, testing the boundaries of this newfound family structure and relishing the presence of someone who supports and respects their mother. In these interactions, Caleb realizes that he has become an essential part of their lives, not by force but through earned trust and genuine care. As the story progresses toward closure, there is a sense of transformation not just in practical terms, but emotionally and spiritually. Caleb, once a solitary rancher accustomed to isolation, experiences the richness of companionship, responsibility, and familial connection. The woman, who had long borne the burdens of raising 4 children alone, discovers that she is no longer isolated in her struggles. She has a partner who respects her, values her, and shares the responsibilities of life. The children gain stability, warmth, and the knowledge that they are supported by more than just their mother's strength. By the final scene, the ranch itself feels renewed. The barn, now organized and clean, symbolizes more than work. It represents safety, trust, and the home they are building together. The sun illuminates the faces of all 6 of them, highlighting smiles, laughter, and the subtle expressions of contentment. In this moment, it becomes clear that a new family has formed, one bound not by circumstance but by care, resilience, and the willingness to embrace one another fully. Part 8 closes the narrative with a sense of hope and enduring connection. What began as a simple barn cleaning job has blossomed into a story of unexpected love, partnership, and the creation of a home filled with warmth, laughter, and belonging. The characters, once isolated and cautious, now share a future brimming with promise, having discovered that even the most unexpected encounters can lead to profound, life-changing bonds.